It was a quiet evening on the America's Got Talent stage. The lights dimmed, the crowd whispered, and the judges leaned forward, ready for another hopeful dreamer. No one had any idea that in just a few minutes, the entire theater would rise to its feet in disbelief. The next contestant wasn't a big name, not someone the cameras had been chasing backstage. All day, he was just a simple Filipino man, clutching an old microphone like it was his lifeline, eyes glistening with both fear and hope. He walked onto that massive stage, looking both nervous and grateful at the same time. The lights reflected off his slightly trembling hands, but there was something about his presence calm, humble, and deeply sincere. Simon Cowell adjusted his jacket, leaned in slightly, and asked the question he always does. "What's your name and where are you from?" The man smiled gently and said, "My name is Ramon and I'm from the Philippines." The crowd clapped politely, but nobody yet knew the storm that was about to unfold. Simon continued, "And what will you be singing for us tonight?" Ramon took a breath, smiled faintly, and said, "An Elvis song." A few laughs and murmurs echoed across the audience. After all, everyone has heard 1,000 Elvis covers before. Simon raised an eyebrow, half curious. Half skeptical, he'd seen many Elvis impersonators, but only a handful ever captured the true soul behind the king's voice. Ramon, however, didn't flinch. He simply nodded toward the sound engineer, signaling he was ready, as the first soft notes of "Can't Help, Falling in Love" filled the air. Something magical happened. Ramon closed his eyes, took one deep breath, and began to sing. The moment his voice hit the first line, the entire crowd froze. It wasn't just an imitation. It was like Elvis himself had stepped back onto the stage. His tone was smooth yet powerful, filled with emotion and warmth, every word flowing like a heartfelt confession. The judges exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from polite curiosity to stunned disbelief. By the time he reached the second verse, the atmosphere in the theater had completely changed. You could hear people whispering, "Is this real?" The audience sat in silence, hanging on every note. The depth of his voice carried something rare, not just talent but soul. Simon leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowed, studying every movement. Every inflection. There was no pretense. No showy dance moves, no gimmicks. Just pure music. It felt as if time had stopped, and the ghost of Elvis Presley had decided to visit AGT for one last encore halfway through the song. Ramon opened his eyes, looked toward the crowd, and something in his gaze struck deep. You could feel the passion of someone who had sung in small bars, wedding gigs, maybe even on street corners back home, dreaming of this very moment. His voice trembled slightly on the high notes, not from weakness but from emotion. Like every memory, every sacrifice, every sleepless night was woven into those lyrics. By the final chorus, people in the front row had tears in their eyes. When the last note faded, there was a second of pure silence, the kind of silence that only follows something truly extraordinary. Then suddenly the crowd erupted. The entire theater stood on its feet, clapping, cheering, screaming. Some shouted bravo. Others just stared, mouths open, unable to believe what they'd heard. Ramon stood there, eyes wet, overwhelmed by the reaction. Simon Cowell, the man known for his poker face, slowly stood up for a moment. He didn't speak, and that silence said everything. Finally, Simon looked directly at Ramon and said, in a calm but shaken voice, "That was unbelievable." The audience cheered again. And Simon continued, "You know, I've heard hundreds of Elvis covers in my life, but that was something else. You didn't just sing like Elvis, you made us feel Elvis." The other judges nodded in agreement. Heidi looked emotional. Sophia wiped a tear. Howie gave a standing ovation and shouted, "That was pure magic." Ramon smiled humbly, bowed slightly, and whispered, "Thank you." But it wasn't just gratitude. It was disbelief, awe, relief, everything all at once. This wasn't just another performance for him. It was the culmination of years of struggle, sacrifice, and endless hope. Back home in the Philippines, Ramon had worked odd jobs just to keep his music dream alive. He sang in karaoke bars, small clubs, even on the streets, never giving up on his dream that one day someone somewhere would finally hear him. The camera panned to the audience. People were wiping their eyes, hugging each other, even strangers holding hands, as if they'd witnessed something sacred. It wasn't just a song, it was a moment of connection. In that brief span of 3 minutes, a man from the other side of the world reminded everyone that music truly has no borders. It doesn't matter where you're from, what language you speak, or how much money you have. When your heart sings, the world listens. After the performance backstage, interviews revealed that Ramon almost didn't audition. He had been rejected in previous years and nearly gave up, but his wife, who had always believed in him, told him, "You have a gift. Don't waste it. Do it for yourself and do it for your family." That encouragement gave him the courage to book a flight and take one more shot at his dream. And now, standing in front of millions of viewers, he finally proved her right. The video of his performance went viral. Within hours, social media exploded with reactions. People all around the world began sharing clips, with captions like, "The Filipino Elvis is here," and "Simon Cowell can't believe his ears." News outlets covered it. Radio stations replayed his voice, and fans from across the globe started following him. It wasn't just about fame. It was about recognition of true, raw, unfiltered talent. A man who sang from his soul, and in doing so, touched millions. Simon later admitted in an interview that he hadn't been that moved by a singer in years. "It's rare to hear someone who doesn't just imitate, but channels the spirit of a legend." He said that man had it. It's not about technique, it's about authenticity. And authenticity was exactly what Ramon had brought to that stage. A pure, heartfelt performance that reminded everyone why music exists in the first place. As the competition progressed, Ramon continued to deliver stunning performances, each one better than the last. But that first audition remained the most unforgettable. It became a benchmark moment, the kind people still talk about years later, like Susan Boyle's first performance or Paul Potts' opera debut. For many, it wasn't just entertainment. It was inspiration proof that dreams, no matter how distant, can still come true if you refuse to give up. In one interview, a young viewer said, "I'm not even an Elvis fan, but when I heard him sing, I felt something I can't explain." That's the magic of music. It doesn't need translation. It speaks directly to the soul. And for those 3 minutes, Ramon became not just a singer, but a bridge between generations, cultures, and emotions. He didn't just sing Elvis. He became the voice of hope, reminding everyone that passion can echo louder than fear. Weeks later, when he returned for the semifinals, the crowd greeted him like an old friend. The moment he walked on stage, the cheers were deafening. He smiled, waved modestly, and said, "I can't believe I'm here again. Thank you for believing in me." He performed another Elvis hit, this time Suspicious Minds, but he gave it his own twist. A subtle Filipino flair in the rhythm, a deeper emotion in the delivery. It wasn't just a cover anymore. It was his own interpretation, and the crowd loved every second. Simon, visibly impressed, told him, "You're not just performing Elvis songs anymore. You're making them yours. That's what makes a true artist." And it was true. Ramon had gone from being a tribute performer to becoming an artist with his own identity, his own story, a story that resonated with millions. The story of a dreamer who crossed oceans, faced rejection, and still stood tall, microphone in hand, singing his heart out. By the time the finals arrived, Ramon had become a fan favorite. People from all over the world, not just the Philippines, were rooting for him. Online comments poured in. "He deserves the golden buzzer. This is what real talent sounds like." Simon was speechless for a reason. It didn't matter whether he won or not. In the hearts of the audience, he had already won. His journey became a symbol of perseverance, humility, and the power of music to unite people. In the grand finale, when Ramon stepped onto the stage for the last time, he looked calm, almost serene. He sang "If I Can Dream," one of Elvis's most powerful songs. A song about hope, struggle, and believing in a better tomorrow. It was the perfect choice. As he sang, the audience rose again, slowly, one by one, until the entire auditorium was standing. Even Simon's usual sharp demeanor softened. He looked proud, genuinely proud. When the song ended, the silence returned, followed by thunderous applause. That lasted nearly a full minute. It wasn't just appreciation. It was gratitude. Gratitude for being reminded of what real music, real dreams, and real emotion feel like. Simon leaned into his microphone, smiled, and said, "I don't care what happens tonight. You've already made history." The crowd cheered again, chanting his name, Ramon. Ramon, Ramon. After the show, back in his dressing room, Ramon sat quietly for a moment, still wearing his suit, still holding his mic. The noise of the crowd faded into the distance. He smiled to himself, remembering where he started. A small karaoke bar in Manila, singing to a handful of strangers. Now he had sung to the world. He whispered a soft thank you. Not just to the judges or the audience, but to everyone who ever believed in him, even when he didn't believe in himself. The next morning, the internet was flooded again, clips, reactions, and heartfelt comments. People said his story made them cry, inspired them to chase their own dreams. His journey had become more than just a TV moment. It had become a movement, a reminder that no matter who you are or where you come from, your voice matters, your story matters. And somewhere thousands of miles away, in a small town in the Philippines, a mother watched her son's video on repeat. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "He did it because sometimes one voice really can change everything." And that night on that stage, a Filipino singer didn't just sing Elvis. He made the whole world believe in the power of dreams. Again,